morning of December 29th, 2024, Jeju Air Flight 2216 approached the quiet coastline of South Jeolla province. It had been an entirely ordinary international flight, an overnight journey from Bangkok to South Korea that thousands of travelers make every week. On board the Boeing 737-800, families were preparing for winter holidays, students were returning home, and workers were heading back after their year-end vacation season. There were 181 people on board, 175 passengers and 6 crew, unaware that they were minutes from one of the most deadliest aviation disasters in South Korean history. But in order to truly understand how this devastating disaster came true, let's set up the scene. There are two types of airport obstruction standards in aviation. The first set by the International Civil Aviation Organization or ICAO, which requires that any equipment within 240 meters of a runway end must be frangible, meaning it's supposed to be designed to brake on impact. The second, recommended by the United States FAA, goes further. A larger runway safety area, arrestor systems for shorter runways, and breakable materials for all obstacles near the runway. At Muan International Airport in South Korea, an instrument landing system localizer or ILS localizer sat on top of a concrete embankment. 2 meters tall, solid concrete, located exactly 250 meters from the runway end, just 10 meters outside the ICAO's frangible zone. Technically compliant, but practically deadly. On December 29, 2024, that 10-meter loophole would kill 179 people. This is the true story of Jeju Air Flight 2216. According to regulations, airports with fewer than 5,000 flights per year need only 2 bird alert team members. Muan had 4 on paper. They worked in rotating shifts, 2 during the day and 1 at night. And on the morning of December 29, 2024, at 8:57 a.m., as the shift change approached, 1 person was on duty. 1 Batman, as they're called locally, 1 person with a firearm and radio responsible for monitoring 13 kilometers of wetland habitat, 1 person to watch for baikal teals, and thousands of other water birds that winter on Korea's southwestern coast. At larger airports like Incheon, Gimpo, Jeju, there are 40, 23, and 20 bird alert team members respectively. At one, excluded from plans to boost staffing due to its low raw numbers, there was just 1. 3 elements: a concrete barrier 10 meters outside the frangible zone, the highest bird strike rate in South Korea, and a single person on bird control duty during a shift change. December 29, 2024 was an accident waiting to happen. At 2:29 local time, Bangkok, Jeju Air Flight 2216, a Boeing 737-800 registered as HL8088, departs from Suvarnabhumi International Airport, its destination Muan. The aircraft is just 15 years old, previously operated by Ryanair, and acquired by Jeju Air in 2017. It's been flying for Jeju Air for nearly 8 years, powered by 2 CFM International CFM56 engines, the workhorse of the 737 fleet. On board are 175 passengers, 6 crew, 173 Koreans and 2 Thai nationals. Many are families returning home from Christmas holidays. The youngest passenger is just 3 years old. This is Jeju Air's 4th weekly flight on the Muan-Bangkok route, a service that resumed less than a month ago after COVID-19 suspensions. The airline is just 19 years old, and in those 19 years, 0 fatal accidents until that fateful day. The flight proceeds normally, across the South China Sea, over Vietnam, and through Chinese airspace. 6.5 hours of routine operations. At 8:57 a.m., Flight 226 began its descent into Muan. The crew is cleared for an approach onto runway 01, a straightened approach from the south, landing gear down, flaps extended, standard configuration, everything by the books. At 8:57 a.m., air traffic control broadcasts a warning: bird activity in the area. Routine for the area. Muan's controllers issue this warning regularly. The wetlands guarantee it. A minute passes. At 8:58 a.m., impact. The pilots report a bird strike, mayday, mayday, mayday. But what happens next depends on who you ask. The crew initiates a go-around. Standard procedure: retract the flaps, retract the landing gear, climb, assess. In the cockpit, alarms, warning. The right engine is damaged. Flames visible on the external cameras. The left engine unclear. But they have a decision to make, and they have seconds to make it. At 8:59 a.m., the crew requests runway 19, the opposite direction. The same strip of asphalt, approach from the north instead of the south. The aircraft enters a teardrop turn. Steep descent, 180-degree reversal to line up with runway 19. During this turn, something happens. The flight recorders, both the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, stop recording. At 8:58 a.m., both black boxes go silent. Complete electrical failure. Loss of power to the recorders, the backup power designed to prevent exactly this scenario also fails. For the next 4 minutes, there is no official record of what happened in that cockpit. At 9:02 a.m., Flight 2216 touches down on runway 19. No landing gear, a belly landing. The aircraft makes contact 1200 meters past the threshold, nearly halfway down a 2800-meter runway. At touchdown, the 737 is traveling far faster than normal landing speeds. Video from the airport shows the plane screaming down the runway, sparks erupting from the fuselage. No thrust reversers, no spoilers, no wheel brakes, just friction between the aluminium and concrete. The nose drops, the tail drags, metal grinding against the asphalt. The plane begins to slow, but not nearly enough. At 9:03 a.m., Flight 2216 reaches the end of runway 19, still traveling at a high speed. The aircraft crosses the threshold, into the grass, through the approaching lighting system, and toward the embankment 250 meters away, which was set 10 meters outside the frangible zone. The impact is instantaneous. The nose crumbles, the cockpit compresses, and the fuselage ruptures. Jet fuel ignites, and the fireball is visible from kilometers away. Of 181 people on board, only 2 survive. Both flight attendants seated in the rear galley, the furthest point from the impact. At 12:30 p.m., fire officials announced that all passengers except 2 were rescued are presumed to be dead. And by the evening, the death toll is confirmed. 179 dead, 83 women, 82 men, and 11 bodies so unrecognizable that identification will take weeks. This is now South Korea's deadliest aviation disaster, surpassing the 2002 Air China Flight 129 crash that killed 129 people. It's the deadliest accident involving a South Korean carrier since Korean Air Flight 801 in 1997. It's also the deadliest runway excursion in aviation history. And it's the deadliest single aviation accident since Lion Air Flight 6110 in 2018, which recently has been surpassed by Air India Flight 171. For Jeju Air, a low-cost air carrier, it's their first fatal accident in the airline's history. On January 7, 2025, the Aviation and Railway Accident Investigation Board confirms bird DNA in both engines. Baikal teals, a species of migratory duck, each weighing approximately 0.45 kilograms. Feathers and blood in the right engine, feathers and blood in the left engines, with both engines being struck. The preliminary report describes a cascade. Bird strike leads to engine damage leads to hydraulic failure prevents landing gear deployment. The crew, dealing with dual engine ingestion and complete electrical failure, did not have time to manually extend the landing gear using the gravity drop system. If only one engine had failed, they might have had enough time. But with both engines damaged, with power lost, and 4 minutes of missing data, the precise sequence remains unclear. Then, in July 2025, the investigation takes a turn. According to the South Korean media, citing unnamed unofficials, the ARAIB has reached a preliminary conclusion. The crew shut down the wrong engine. The right engine, damaged by a bird strike, was indeed failing, but the left engine remained operational. And in the chaos of alarms, warning, and emergency procedures, one of the pilots shut down the left engine, the good one, instead of the right. Dual engine failure, not from bird strikes, but from pilot error. The families of victims reject this conclusion outright, So does the Jeju Air Pilots Union. They point to other factors: the runway slope, the late touchdown point, the concrete barrier. They accuse the ARAIB of scapegoating dead pilots while ignoring systemic failures. This document officially was never released, and as of now, the final report remains unpublished. The question is, as always, whether the accident was inevitable or preventable. In 2023 alone, the FAA recorded 19,400 wildlife strikes at US airports worldwide. From 1998 to 2023, bird strikes with civilian and military aircraft killed 491 people and destroyed 350 planes. About 61% of bird strikes occur during landing. They are statistically the most common phase of flight for bird encounters. Commercial pilots hit birds regularly. Small birds, usually cardinals, robins, sparrows, and most strikes cause no damage. Some may cause minor damage and a few cause millions in repair. But dual-engine bird strikes are exceptionally rare, and catastrophic outcomes come from dual-engine strikes are rarer still. The most famous case of this is US Airways Flight 1549, the Miracle on the Hudson as it's called. January 15, 2009, an Airbus A320 struck a flock of Canada geese shortly after takeoff from LaGuardia. Both engines failed, and Captain Chesley Sullenberger ditched the aircraft in the Hudson River. All 155 people on board survived. It was a miracle, but it was also a ditching in the water and not a runway overrun into concrete. Flight 226 had no river. It had wetlands, yes, but also a runway that ended in grass, approach lights, and a 2-meter concrete wall. Had the crew landed further up the runway, perhaps the outcome would have been different. Had they deployed the landing gear manually, perhaps. Had the barrier been frangible, almost certainly. Had the arrestor cables been present, possibly they could have saved it. But they weren't able to save it because none of these safety features were in place. But what's not debatable here is that a concrete structure 10 meters outside a safety zone killed 179 people. Between the Wright brothers' first flight in 1903 and the year 2023, bird strikes have been a known, quantified, manageable risk. Airports use radar, drones, sound cannons, habitat modifications. Pilot training emphasizes go-around, single-engine operations, and the emergency landing procedures. Aircraft engines are tested against bird ingestion. 4-pound chickens are fired from cannons at cruise speed. The industry has spent billions making air travel safer. And it has worked. Aviation by far is the safest form of transportation. In 2023, the United States recorded over 4,600 workplace fatalities. By comparison, commercial aviation worldwide sees an average about 200 fatalities per year across billions of passenger miles. The math is unambiguous. You are safer in an airplane than in almost any other human activity. But that safety is not inherent. It is engineered, it is regulated, and it is maintained. When it fails because someone, somewhere, decided that 10 meters was enough, that one person was sufficient, and that the concrete was acceptable. 179 people died at Muan because accidents don't happen. They are built one decision at a time. And until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos just like this, be sure to comment down below, like, and subscribe. This has been the Evidence Room, and I will see you all in the next video.